welcome to another podcast of When Does the Fuckery End? I believe this is episode 23. And today is going to be a special one, but I'm going to do what I always do first and go over the organizations that I believe are worth looking out and checking out. And one of them is a good sponsor of today's, which is Semper Fi Fund. And then you can find them at Semper Fi and America Fund. And then we have Tunnels to Towers organization. We also have Warfighters Engaged, Joshua Chamberlain Society, and Focus Marines Foundation, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Well, with that being said, we're going to move on to what this episode is actually about. And today I'm here with some of the surgeons that were there on the day that March 26, 2010, that we talk about sometimes. The day that changed my life forever, and I'm sure it probably changed these guys' life forever as well. And I had the opportunity today to meet up with them and speak with them and tell them everything's going great in my life, which sometimes it's not. Is it, Kyle?
It's always going great.
Oh, you're going to get fired now. But anyway, I would like to have them tell their stories and you guys kind of enjoy or get the tissue box, whichever might happen. So we'll go ahead and just kind of start there with that. Does anyone want to start and let us know what they were doing that day or what kind of procedure they had to do with me or on me or... You know, I said on me,
yeah,
so...
Yeah, obviously introduce yourself.
Yes, please.
All right, I'll start. I'm the chatty one here. It's like the Spice Girls, but...
well, at least someone's got to go first,
Yeah, I'd
Paul.
be Chatty Spice.
Someone's got to go first.
My name's Paul Roach. I'm a general surgeon, and we were part of Alpha Surgical Company, 1st Medical Battalion, and we're out in southern Helmand Province in 2009-10 in Camp Dwyer. And it was a series of tents in this really barren landscape. And the tents were kind of removed by 10 or 15 minutes from the action so that we wouldn't be right in the front. And we just lived there. And that's all we did. And we waited for business to come in, what we'd call business.
So I was business, Paul?
Yeah. We call that business as a euphemism. And then when it did, we would spring into action. And so I can't remember exactly the day, but pretty much every day was extraordinarily hot and sunny.
It was always sunny in Philadelphia.
Yeah. And I don't know if you guys remember any of the details of the afternoon when this happened.
Well, I just wanted to...
It's on.
Oh, I just wanted to say that I do remember you springing, bouncing up and down all over the place. That's funny. But my name is Alex Evans. I am one of the surgeons that was there working alongside Paul. He was my cut buddy, who we call him, surgeon buddy. Yeah. So we worked in teams, and so. We worked as a team so that one side would rest if it got too busy, etc. But it was, just as he said, he described the environment. As far as when you came in, we were all there, at least our team. And then because of the significance of the injury and because we expected others to come in, we called the other team in. So it was basically... 4 general surgeons, 1 plastic surgeon, and 2 orthopedic surgeons all at one time. So a lot of surgeons. And then you had anesthesiologists. I think 2 of you were there. So
I
a
don't
lot of
light the
physicians.
subject, but it kind of sounds like the beginning of a joke. Like, how many surgeons does it take to put time back together?
And there it is.
But Amy, you were saying that when the radio first call came in.
Hi, how you doing? I am Amy Zetchuk. I worked in the shock trauma platoon area of the SDP FRIS out in Afghanistan. Excuse me. I remember that day as I heard the birds taken off, and it was in the afternoon, early afternoon, lunchish time, I think. I don't know the time. I don't know the exact time, but we never would really, at that point, after being there for about 4 months, 5 months, it was unusual to hear the chopper spinning so fast and getting out of there. And I walked in, and I think I remember it was Captain Dan Nollcamper, who was our company commander at the time, and said, "Oh, we have a single amputee coming in." And then it was spinning the ORs up, and that's when the surgeons and you guys got to work and did what you had to do to warm up the tents and get into place, knowing that somebody's coming through. Normal routine, everybody would go out, wait for the helicopter to land. And then I'd heard, oh, it's a double. Okay, so coming in with double, that's all we got. And then I remember hearing it's a triple amputee coming in. And then we could hear the birds coming out, and I went outside, and there was sand kicking up, and I never saw the helicopters after our time there. We got there kind of boots on the ground early November. This is March 26th.
2010.
2010. I had never seen the birds coming in so hot, and everybody was saying, "Hey, they're coming in hot." And they came in and they smashed down so close. I don't think they followed protocol, probably not. And I saw the dust-off guy scream and put 4 fingers up and said, 4, it's a quad, it's a quad. And that's and it gives me chills just to say that.
Well, I was sitting here getting chills myself, and I was going to mention something, but I was like, I'll just let her finish her story. But I'm over here getting chills listening to this story because I'm the one inside the bird.
Yeah. But when you came in, I moved into the STP because we didn't know what we had. I think that everybody was moving so fast, and you probably can talk about what was going on in the aircraft. I think you remember.
I actually had blacked out once I got to the aircraft. We talked about this earlier, where I felt like I was going to be safe once I had reached the helicopter. Something in my body told me, you're going to be fine. And that's when I kind of blacked out. But apparently I was still conscious when I arrived. You came through, and I remember standing in the STP, and you were screaming. And I think we can all remember that. And there was... Well, sorry to put that image in your head, folks.
So you didn't make it to the shock trauma platoon. We had to go take you right back to the operating room. There was nothing that we could do there. And that's when the surgeons took over and started going to work on you. And I think Paul probably can jump in, and Steve and the surgeons, because that's when they took over.
I'll just say your screaming was a good thing for us.
Okay.
You do that. I mean, I know it's not a good thing, and you don't maybe
Right.
remember that, but it told us that you were, it still had
Some fighter life in me.
That's right.
No, so
mental function that meant you were having the blood to do that.
And actually, to piggyback on that, that's what made it so positive, but it made us feel like in this type of person with this type of injury, we actually can save him. And so that's why you were joking how many doctors, everybody jumped in because we said, oh, this is one we can save, guys. This is one we can save.
I think I asked you guys all that question earlier too, was did you know if I could be saved, or did you think that there was any possibility?
When you were screaming, we believed it.
The other thing that's important is we were not in a hospital. We were just in a tent. Dimly lit, poor lighting, poor suction, very few units of blood, not temperature controlled. And so when a person came in, we had to swarm in order to accomplish everything that needed to be done to sort of control the situation as fast as we could. So it couldn't be one pair of surgeons working on this arm and then that leg. And so it was everybody at once. So it was our 2 orthopedic surgeons were working right away. Alex and I were working right away. We had a plastic surgeon working right away. And then there was a lot of work happening up at the head of the bed, getting you blood. How many units?
We have a picture, Steve. I think we have a picture somewhere. I think that Steve mentioned it, but I don't know the total.
Yeah, I think Craig might have sent me some pictures too, and we'll put that up on the website so you people will know exactly what they're talking about and what this scenario looked like.
I'm pulling it up now. That was 47.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly how many it was.
But talk about blood, though. I mean, the walking blood bank itself was amazing, and you guys, our nurses, yeah. So
that's Steve's forte.
Yeah, Steve, you want to introduce yourself and elaborate what the walking blood bank is?
So I'm Stephen Blackwell, an anesthesiologist, and unfortunately there were 2 other anesthesiologists there with me that were vital. Rupa Daner is not here at the conference or the weekend, but also Mike Kearns, and so they get much credit. But in that environment, we had limited blood available, and we knew that we were going to have traumatic injuries that had to be resuscitated, and so you can't just keep blood forever, and you have a supply that can expire. So there's always a battle to keep enough of it there to treat and to resuscitate. So the Navy and the military in general, in its infinite wisdom, had already put together. We're working on the shoulders of people who'd been before us and done this before, but had a protocol for a walking blood bank where early on we screened DoD personnel at Camp Dwyer that were anyone who carried a CAT card, so active duty or civilian contractor, anyone that we could keep tabs on would qualify, and we could pre-screen them so that we could know blood type and any other tests that you do to make sure that you're giving the right kind of type specific and screened blood also that's clean and screened for different viruses. So anyway, we had that available, and when the word came in that we would have traumatic injuries that needed blood, we got the word out by carrier pigeon, by
Carrier pigeon.
by email, by whatever means we had to the camp, because I can't remember how big the camp was, square, acreage.
Well,
but
apparently I have a little bit of Amy in me.
Yeah,
I think you do.
there is.
We're all jealous.
I'm embarrassed to say I don't remember what your blood type was.
A positive.
A positive. So anyway, it was very unique. But we sprang into action, and we had enough blood to at least get started. When I say we had enough blood, we had enough banked blood because that was readily available, and we had that right there, and we could start it, but it wasn't enough for ongoing needs. So that's where the walking blood bank came into, where it earned its money, was to continue to provide. And one thing that strikes me about that day, I was going out and getting. It was warming up. It was pretty hot by then, and I was getting vitamin D therapy out on top of one of the Connex boxes.
Laying out in the sun.
That's right.
Naked.
Was he in a
Naked.
bikini?
Naked.
Yeah.
I prefer to be naked.
But anyway, so it was really hot, and so believe it or not, even inside the tent, it's very hot, but we had to warm it up even more to keep the temperature for you close to body temperature, 98 degrees. That's pretty hot because you have no way to control or regulate your temperature at this point. And we talk about a triad of death. Getting cold, even just a few degrees below 98, is bad because you don't clot like you should. So it was just sweltering. That's why you see these pictures of us in T-shirts and shorts and whatnot, because it's just so hot. But anyway, the good thing about whole blood is you're taking it immediately from the person whose temperature is 98 degrees, and you're giving it, so it's not chilled like banked blood is, and that's one of the beautiful effects of it. And it's got all the components, and they all work. If you bank blood, it loses some of its function and activity just by the pure fact of being processed and banked. So in this case, whole blood is perfect blood. You can give it immediately, and it's warm, and it's got all the factors that are necessary. And anyway, that's what we gave you.
These are some very interesting facts about blood that I wasn't even. Did you go?
No, I had no idea about blood like this.
Me neither.
So
You're lucky you answered that one, or you might get fired.
One thing is that it was lunchtime, and we had to get the walking blood bank going so fast that we didn't have the rest of the base showing up right then and there. So there's a line, and I'll send you the picture of a bunch of us medical folks who were all A positive that lined up, got our blood. I got mine out. I think I was the first one to go in, and then you give it to the blood bank. They spin it, cook it, do whatever magic they can to it. Then they gave it back to me, and I went in there and just pushed it right in. And then that continued.
Wow, it's amazing how many people all came together to save one life.
That's a great point. I mean, if you think about it, it begins with your company mate who put on the tourniquets, and then your corpsman comes in, and then someone radios the helicopter team. Helicopter team shows up with the pilots and the medics in the back, and you got to also then include, the mechanics who make sure that the damn helicopter will fly, and the air traffic controllers who route all the messages. Then you bring it into our company, and then it just carries on from there over and over. One point I wanted to make about the blood is in any one of us, we have about 15 pints of blood in our body. And if you lose half of that, that's pretty much a critical threshold, wouldn't you say? So if you lose 7.5 pints of blood, that might be beyond the point where you're going to survive. And so you were right at that threshold. And then all told, by the time we were done in just maybe an hour and a half of operating on you, you had received in various forms 45 or so units of blood and blood products. So you got kind of a clean out.
It sounds like I had like 3 people in me.
Could have been a few.
A few more.
Craig, do you have anything wild to talk about on how you showed up to the OR?
Sure, yeah. It is, I guess, a
sounded like
good
a setup.
Good segue. I'm Craig Randall. At the time, I was lieutenant commander and just retired as Captain Randall. But
Ooh, la-ti-da.
I know.
Oh, the one pulling his rank out now.
Exactly.
Oh, now they're giving him so much trouble.
Yeah, and yeah, notice how none of these fine gentlemen and ladies introduce their military titles. But anyway, I was having a very good day. I was excited because it was my off day. Mary Cunningham.
Sunbathing?
No, I was not sunbathing. Mary Cunningham was the orthopod on call, and it was my off day. And Dwyer they just opened up 2 things. They opened up the exchange and a barber shop. So I was excited. I was going to get a little lunch and go get a nice little haircut for the first time.
And then I had to go step on a bomb.
Exactly. But as I was walking, I heard the birds take off, and I was like, oh, some business going to happen. We'll see how that goes. And I was in the barber shop, and all of a sudden, Amy burst through the door, and she says, we got a bad one. And I said, okay. She goes, we need you now. And I got up, and she goes, you drive the Gator. And so, we had the little John Deere Gators. And, of course, being a Marine Corps base, if you go above 5 miles per hour, 5 different people yell at you. And
Camp Commandant comes out and gives you a speeding ticket.
Yeah, something like that.
The mayor.
It's funny because it's true.
Yeah.
Do you have your yellow
Did not.
reflector on?
Didn't have any. She just goes.
No glow
and I
belt?
just-
He had his cape on.
No
No,
glow belt,
no.
but he had his haircut cape on.
But I told her, I said, let me take the wheel. I'll use my massive 04 rank. And I said, if we get a speeding ticket, we can speed. And we just flew in and zipped in right to the front door. And so I missed, all of the intro. And by the time I got there, I just took my blouse off. I still had my boots and my, T-shirt and pants. And, they were knee deep in it. By this time, Mary, credit to her, they had completed and had dressed your left leg, and they were finishing up the right leg. And by the time I jumped in, the focus was on your right arm.
And we mentioned that too, with my right arm, how we talked about earlier about the elbow joint and how significant that is to have.
Yes.
And I wouldn't have that if you guys wouldn't have saved it.
And I will stop here, and it is maybe fortuitous that the Ed Lyons is quietly in the background because he was one of the first. And what I did with him was he lost his hand, and I, they talk about, take the amputation to good tissue, and what I elected to do was to leave him as much length as possible. and I took care of the amputation, cleaned it up a little bit, and then kind of stretched the skin. And that's a testament to Commander Mazurek, who was an orthopedic surgeon. He was an orthopedic traumatologist, and we had chatted before my deployment. He always talked about leaving as much for the guys down the road so they can use that. And it was funny. Another orthopod and I, we got in a huge argument because he accused me of closing a traumatic wound, which I did. But, professional courtesy. But so I jump into your right arm, and the injury was through the joint. I mean, your distal humerus was exposed. And Bob Hirsch was there. And I think he left to go do help with the blood bank, I think at that time. So I completed your amputation through your right arm, and it definitely was interarticular. And then it was time to address your left arm, and certainly, the concern was the blast injury had extended up until your elbow, and so we did have a conversation of do we amputate through the elbow joint on the left? Do we decide to leave it on? And I was clear that we're going to leave you with much length.
Well, then I am very happy that you left me with that much more length, because now I can somewhat scratch my neck when I need to.
Fair enough. But it was hairy, and as we discussed, your vessels were injured, and this is where Alex and Paul kind of jump in and do a lot of vascular work. But I can tell you, for your forearm, again, as we talked, I took out one of your lesser toes that was in your forearm. I took out part of the sole of your boot, and you saw some of the eyelets. I mean, we have the one picture of the eyelet. I think there was a couple. I think you guys took one out or something. But certainly it definitely represented the extent of the injury, into the forearm. But that's what we elected to do. Dressed up the arm, and then you see some of the kind of the post pictures. But I will say this, and this is kind of a segue, and I'm glad you've mentioned some of this. And this is another reason why I asked you. I turned to Paul. Paul and I weren't the last. We were the last. Bob came in and did some work on your face, and plus he, as a plastic surgeon, he tried to put breast augmentation to make it really.
Well, I did get a larger cup size.
Might as well.
But this is, because I don't remember all the particulars, but I do remember this point, and I do remember, and I don't think Paul remembered it, but I asked Paul, and I don't know if it was in my head, but my question was, what are we doing? And, because we're at a point where, we can keep people indefinitely alive, but are they alive? And that was running through my head with you. And I say that because that has been on my mind for the past 13 years.
If I may, like I was saying when I first met you guys, is don't ever think that my quality of life has ever held me back from anything. The fact that I still have my life is the reason of you guys, and that I get to enjoy having my 3-year-old son.
And Mary's come in, and Mary's aware of the LEAP study, and they talk about, this was a study done in the 90s where they talked about amputations and just the hardships. And that ran through my mind. Now, I can't remember if I asked Paul this or I wanted to ask Paul this.
You did ask.
But I did, and I thought it was kind of good that you had 2 guilt-ridden Irish Catholics, and Alex was there, and we'll adopt him as an Irish Catholic too. But working on your arm, saying, "Well, let's give you a chance," But that question has always haunted me, and I will tell you, I've been keeping tabs on you from afar, and that's been a question.
That sounds a little creepy, Craig.
Well, no, stop it.
This is not. I mean,
because that's understandable.
And this is because this
Been
is
watching you.
This has been, my ghost on this. is that question. And I've been scared to ask that question. There are a couple times where I wanted to drive to Missouri. That's why and the people I wanted to talk to would be your mom, your dad, and it's not, but I was scared to ask that question because I don't, the question is, it's not a question I'm proud I asked.
I want you to understand that hopefully meeting today has put some of that to rest, because I myself, like I said, am very excited and happy to be alive now that I have my 3-year-old son and I mentor people now. Was I always in a great place? No, I wasn't, but I am now today. Life is hard, but I have to look back and go, at least I still have my life.
Because, earlier today, we all talked about what we did and that kind of stuff. We moved on, but always I was like, you were there that March, and that always, I was fearful of that. That's just that's my ghost. That's my demon.
Well, hopefully we can put that ghost to rest.
Hopefully.
Now.
Yeah, you have. And even Ed, that, and there are others out there. There are others out there that I do have questions about, and it's not to take away anyone else's experience, but that's my demon, I guess, is did we? And I'm glad, and I can put that demon to rest.
And that just goes to prove that not only of us military guys that were on the front lines, that it happens to the guys in the back lines too.
Because here's the thing, and the reason the elbow is, I remember that Marine, not even a name. How inhuman is that? That Marine I remember from the arm, and that's how a lot of you guys come through, and in some ways that's good, and we disassociate the humanity of it, but at the same time that's not why I got into medicine, certainly, but you do wonder, and you do know that you guys leave the, 1 minute you're on the field in a dirty wadi or whatever, and the next thing you know, you're back in Maryland. So, thank you for helping me at least get rid of that. I don't say that as saying my life's, certainly folks have got bigger demons, but that's just been one persistent question. In fact, my son just texted me. Said, "Oh," he goes, "You're meeting the quad," and that's how you are in my memory. You're the quad.
Well, I mean,
I
was
not anymore. Now
not
it's
yeah.
Todd.
Now it's Todd.
It's good,
Right.
And that's and so Mary had some excellent points, and hopefully she'll. But she's jumped in. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Mary.
Yeah. We've been talking about you, Mary.
Sorry. Oh, really?
Mostly good.
Mostly
I was checking
good.
on my daughter, but I know this may sound funny. I don't want to make this something talking about like my experiences, but I will tell you that it brings back so much stuff. And I just remember being at Bastion with this whole room filled with blown up bodies and blood everywhere. That visual image.
Something like that never really leaves your mind.
No. And, in your particular instance, and I know we kind of talked about this before, but like I said, I knew that you were going to, it was interesting to say when you said, I know you knew when you got on the dust off that you were going to live. Mm-hmm. And you knew it inside. And it's interesting because Ed talking about the angels and everything, I think I'm a religious person, and it's funny because I became an Irish Catholic now after the military, but when you came in with so much life inside of you, I mean, when someone has that life force, they're gonna make it. And just like Craig was saying, I told you, like, when I saw that newspaper on the Washington Post and the newsstand with you on it and your wife at the time, I was like, thank God. You look so good. You know, we're obviously all a lot younger than.
Yeah, Kyle's giving you he looks all right.
Yeah.
Well,
What are you
and
judging
then,
me for, Kyle?
Perspective.
Okay.
yeah.
Perspective.
And then following, I did the same thing as Craig. I mean, I felt a sense of relief. Okay, like thank God we did that. And I will say that, I had those same thoughts too. Like, are we doing the right thing to save young men in these situations? And then when we came back to Walter Reed, and again, it's just blown up bodies everywhere, lost their penis, lost their testicles, lost half their body, and you're looking at a stump of a person, and they're 20 years old. Marines, soldiers in the absolute prime of their life, and their physical being and self is such a huge part of their identity, and thinking, how is this person going to go on from this? And I will tell you that, like, especially being Catholic and being religious, is like all life is so precious.
And it is.
So precious.
Just imagine how many mothers you made happy.
Yeah.
How many brothers and sisters were made happy. Especially mine that day. You made 5 just with this one right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have no doubts about it now, but back then, when you see that, the gore in these young men, it's very...
It's tough to swallow. I mean, even myself being at the hospital, it was hard to watch new guys come in and flow through while you're trying to do your therapy and work. It's tough to watch. It's tough to see. And I don't think people realize that listen to the podcast or anywhere that, the type of things that we go through as well. And as you guys as medical professionals, you have to see it day in and day out. So that's got to be tough. And I hope that with me and Ed being here today, Ed's not really talking back there, but I hope that we could put some ease to your mind to say you guys are doing a great service for this country and bringing men like us back home.
Well, and I truly believe everything happens for a reason. Every single thing, even the bad things that happen in life. And I say that to my daughter all the time because that's the way life is, but your life has a purpose, and you guys are clearly showing and expressing that. Just starting individually with your families and being a light to people that have been in these similar situations, and even just talking about the mental health stuff, especially to young men. That's a hard thing, to talk about and to face, and the fact that you guys faced things like that, made it, that's a miracle too. That's incredible.
Just to turn that, to focus on the things, happen for a reason and you live for a purpose. I always think about that a lot, and it's hard for me to understand sometimes. But then if I flip it over, it makes more sense. And getting to know you guys last night and today has been so profound in that you wake up and you give yourself that purpose. You say, I'm taking this purpose. I'm going to live today. I could choose to just fold my cards and just give up, but no, I'm going to do this. And I think meeting both of you has been very inspirational for all of us, in that you have chosen. You both articulated that. I want this. I want this day to happen. I want tomorrow to happen. I want to be a dad every day. And where I'm coming from is a sense of like new appreciation for this Marine spirit in both of you and in all the others who you're like, it's not over yet. I'm still here. I'm still fighting, and I'm bringing it. And I just, it's been really fantastic to meet you both and to get to know you like we have today.
When Craig here was talking about the demons, I think as medical professions, even though outside, all of us, doesn't matter if we're nursing, etc., we always have those questions that come up in our minds. And unfortunately, in order to continue to treat the next person, we do like what he did. You put it as a number, and you disassociate just to allow you to go to the next person, the next one, the next one. But every once in a while, something like this happens where you can take off that Superman attitude and you bring down the mask and you become vulnerable. And then, when I saw you, it's like a flood of memories came in. And I remember how, I was in it. We were doing it. But in my mind, I was like, no, we got to save him. And everyone was, I mentioned it earlier, everyone just gelled, just moved in sync. They knew what to do. It was beautiful to see. If there can be beauty in this, it was beautiful to see the coordination of care and the camaraderie of everyone there focused on one thing, and that was saving you. And now that I can bring that shield down, I can heal from all the angst that we all have.
And that had to have been taxing for 13 years to carry that with you.
Yeah.
I mean, that it's been 13 years since this injury happened to me. And for 13 years, you've been carrying that around. So to hear that helps me as well, knowing that you guys seeing me and how well I'm doing, that it brings this in. And everybody, they keep saying you. Well, we're going to bring in Ed. Ed was in the same battalion as I was. He was with Golf Company, correct?
That's correct, Todd. I was with 22 Golf Company on that same deployment. My name's Ed Lyons. And I was one of, if not the first or second casualty that this team had go through their field hospital in Camp Dwyer. And it's interesting, both Todd and I have talked about our recoveries and mentioned how, grateful we are for our lives, and that is due to all of you in the efforts that you have made. And yes, there were those dark times and hard periods that we had gone through. And one of the things that has just been really eye-opening for me here, and some of you have talked about it, and Todd has mentioned a lot on this, is for 13, 14 years now, I've looked back on that day as this is what happened to me. Very early on into my deployment, and now being here, getting to meet all of you and speak with you, I'm realizing that it may have been traumatizing for me on that day, November 25th, 2009, but it was also very early on into all of yours deployments too, and so it wasn't just me who was affected by this. And so getting to be here and meet all of you and hear the efforts that you all had made it's really made me even that much more appreciative of the life that I do have and that I get to have, that might have very well ended at 20 years old if it weren't for all of you. Now I do get to have that family and raise children and lead a life that honors not just the sacrifice of the men that we served with and those who didn't come home, but it honors the sacrifice and efforts of all of those who made sure that Todd and I got to come home.
And that couldn't be well more spoken than by Ed there. I'm telling you right now, if it wasn't for you guys, we would not have the life that we're having right now. We could be another Gold Star family. And that's one too many Gold Star families, in my opinion.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I'm Commander Alvarado. I'm still active duty, 27 years. I was a critical care nurse with about a year and a half experience, never had trauma experience. So I went out with this team, and, we got a bunch of great doctors that were working. We also had great corpsmen, great nurses on the team. My particular role was ICU to take care of, after surgery, recovery, and get them out. I flew a couple missions to Bastion to the higher level on the 60. But that particular day, I was actually watching a TV show, The Office, and I heard the bird spin up, and it's sort of like our alarm clock, right? When you hear the bird spin, dust off, you know something's going to happen. When you hear the cobra spin, you know somebody's going to get blasted. So it was always kind of a combination, right? But this particular day, it just happened, right? So we all mustered up, and we all got our roles. We all did what we had to do. And, my experience, and this is kind of my demon, like Craig was saying, is I've always remembered when you first came in, and it's, and I kind of talked to you briefly about this earlier. I remember them bringing you in the litter, and you were not talking at the time. And the question I asked, where's his IV? Because I was serving as a peri-op nurse. So my job is to kind of circulate the OR. I'm kind of the clean guy. So if they need more sutures, if they need whatever, so they won't break sterile field, I hand them stuff. I also was, in charge of counting blood and tourniquet time, all that good stuff. So I kind of am from afar. So I was asking about where's his IV. I was getting pre-op questions. They said we couldn't get one. I didn't see the fast one on the chest, but okay, all right. So you literally came without any IV access, but you had every limb with the tourniquet. I remember that. I could not see your face, and I just remember a lot of chart. So for me, that image, having such little experience in trauma, was kind of daunting to me.
Here's everything at one time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I even asked the medic, who was pale-faced, is he alive? I asked him kind of quietly. And that's when you moaned, kind of trying to tell us, I'm alive. And that's when we moved immediately to the back. And I took my role in the back, and to me, watching these surgeons and nurses and the surge techs, the corpsmen, it was like poetry in motion, because I was the third party outside. And just to see everybody working, and we're talking like millions of dollars of training for medical school, nursing school, working the hardest to save your life, to me was like, wow, that is amazing. Like I said, poetry in motion. There was no yelling, no screaming. Everybody knew their role. And it was almost 7 months into our mission. We were, in a sense, like the Marine Corps says, brothers in arms. We had our medical and we had our team. We were a tight-knit bond. And I think part of it is because the Marine Corps taught us that, right? We see how you guys have that tight bond. We also had that tight bond. And because we're with you, we are one. And that was our main goal. And I just thought it was beautiful to see the whole interaction, and everybody was calm. And because of that, and I mentioned it before, my practice has improved through this experience. And me too. I had always talked about, like when I teach classes for pre-deployment to the corpsmen or nurses, I talk about your injury. But to be honest, I didn't know your name until this awesome Semper Fi funds invited me to come out here. And I was scared to come out here because I didn't know how to act. Even when you walked in here with your brother-in-law, I said, should I give him a handshake? Should I hug him? I did not know what to do. But now getting to know you and meet you, to me, is closure. And closure in a good way where I know what they did, what I did, was very meaningful because you're here today. And to hear your story, it's like we even talked about it. Writing a book, writing a book about what you went through and your personal demons and the experience. And now you're turning around and you have a son. I mean, I think that would be a great book, not only for us, but for others. But that's just my take on it. And
I've been told I
appreciate
should write a book, but I like to think that I'm not old enough to write a book yet.
Oh, you are. You are 100%.
I'd like to add that just it kind of to what Art was sort of one of the things he was getting at is, doctors and nurses can be very fallible, and there can be, thankfully, I haven't spent too many occasions where I've worked in a dysfunctional environment, but you certainly, career-wise, have been and around that. And I'll say that this group, for both of y'all, was opposite of that. There weren't a lot of big egos. We had various ranking, physicians and nurses there, but we kind of gelled as a family, and there wasn't a lot of yelling or it was a very smooth, calm. We jumped into action, is what I observed, but everybody worked together, and I think that was a big part of why things were so successful for you and Todd, was because or you and Ed, was because it just people worked together but so smoothly and got things done quickly, and were civil about it.
I would also say we were inspired by you as Marines too, and I have always held the Marines in the highest standards. My grandfather was in World War II, Guadalcanal, et cetera, but we wanted you guys also, like your discipline, your honor, all of those things were very inspiring to us, and that also made us act in that way. So we were doing it together, and I love them. I love my Marines. I had to go in the Navy as a physician, but I cannot tell you how much I respect and admire you guys.
Thank you.
But I'd like to jump on that as well and just say, in terms of moving forward from here, because all that happened, all that's in the past, we're here today, and we've got to live our lives moving forward. I think we could do worse than to keep in mind the honor, courage, and commitment core values, which is, what? We're going to have hard times again in each of our lives moving ahead. And when that happens, stick with it. The honor, the courage, the commitment to keep moving forward and stay positive and keep, make every day matter.
Well, and that's one thing that we can do is make a commitment to each other to keep living our best lives. I believe that that's important.
Certainly I think this is the first chapter, because there's a lot of people from our team that were in there that aren't here. And I mean, none of our enlisted are here. And I think this is a good preface, but I think the book still needs to be closed on a lot of people, particularly the techs, but there are certainly, a lot of people that certainly deserve their voice.
I would love to meet them with them as well. I mean, It's amazing, like I said it earlier, it's amazing to me how many people could fit around such a small, what's left of a human body, to make sure that it keeps living. It's just, it blows my mind.
And just like that one picture, the room was completely, those are the techs cleaning the room, getting it ready, and, ready for the next one, so to speak. And I think a lot of those folks, definitely need their, so hopefully, this will be, like I said, a preface and
precursor for the next time.
Yeah.
I would like to ask a question of you, Ed and Todd. We were obviously there with you at the beginning, but collectively as a group of physicians and nurses that began your care, and over the many, many months and years, I'd love to know what you feel like, we, if got anything wrong, what was wrong with caring for you, maybe where people can learn from that this is not what you do. This is not how you take care of a wounded veteran.
I mean, I can answer that, or if Ed wants to, or we both can.
If you want to go first, and then I'll follow after you.
All right, yeah. I mean, as far as taking care of a wound, I mean, bedside manner is something that can be appreciated a lot of the times. Sometimes you got to hear it the rough way, but a lot of the times it's like, I understand you're having a bad day, but imagine the person in the bed. You have to think about them and think about, yeah, your day's not going that great, but imagine how they feel. So that would be one of the biggest things that I could say. And I've had nothing but nice doctors and nice nurses. So there was one time where I wasn't very happy with the doctor, but like I said, I don't know if they were having a bad day or if whatever it was, but you have to remember that my day might be a little bit worse right now. So,
yeah, no, exactly what Todd said there. And I think from the moment that you all first received me, I talked about, immediately there was that voice soothing me, explaining what was going on before I went under. Hey, there's a lot of hands that are going to be touching you. You're safe. That reassurance, and then also the point blank matter of fact, hey, this is what we have to do. We're taking the hand. That honesty coupled with the good bedside manner of reassurance and making me feel comfortable and safe. That was amazing. And largely I was fortunate enough, like Todd, to have really good nurses and doctors throughout the rest of my care. And there was one instance where it just came back to bedside manner, and I was fortunate enough to where I was just tired of being poked and prodded. And I had a nurse advocate for me with one specific doctor who was just doing his job, right? Doing his job. And every time after that, when that doctor came in, he would, instead of just getting down to poking and prodding me, he'd always ask, is it okay if I do this? Is it okay if I do that? And that made me feel like a human again instead of a patient. And that would be the only advice I would offer to any new medic. Just remember, there's still people, not just the patient in the bed.
Well, you can have $1 million worth of training, and if you're not compassionate at the bedside, what difference does it make?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I mean, in the nursing, not to talk bad about my colleagues here, the doctors, but we're at the bedside 24/7, right? Doctors are out there doing their thing, seeing multiple patients, and nurses, we're at the bedside, right? We answer the call lights, we try to help, and yes, with every profession you have good and you have bad. But I think early on in my career, one of the things, because I used to be a corpsman, one of the things that one of the docs told me was, if you treat your patient like if it was a family member, and how would you want them to be treated? And use that in your practice. And I've carried that on, since I've been a nurse, and I think that really helps. And it's unfortunate to hear that, something as simple as, bedside manner is lacking. I mean, that's something that definitely, thanks for, sharing that, because I could go back to my hospital, talk to my team, and, kind of make that a point, because sometimes we do forget about that. And sometimes we're thinking about other things, and we just want, here, just take this pill, man. I got to go give other pills. But that's it's unfortunate. So I apologize on the behalf of my colleagues, but yeah.
The red pill or the blue pill?
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right. Well, I would like to thank you all for being part of this. This is definitely going to be a great episode, and it's a jump back into my podcasting. Right, Kyle? Yeah. You didn't get fired this episode. You're lucky. But I would like to thank you all for being part of my reignition into this and getting to meet you. I'm glad that I'm here. I almost didn't get to make it, but I'm glad that I did. And I will not forget this. That's for sure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Thanks, Todd.
Awesome. Thanks.
Next time, let's not be so serious. Like, let's have a fun
Hey,
podcast
we will have
the
a
next
fun one
time.
next time, I promise.
I know we got
'Cause
the
remember,
serious
this
stuff
is
out.
the precursor.
Later today, we owe you a beer.
We still have a night.
Yeah, we still have the rest of the night.
Who's buying shots?
Oh, shots.
Not
Shots.
Todd. Not Todd or
We
Ed.
didn't start this one off with one, and we know why.
What's the number for this one?
23. All right. Well, thank you all for listening.